Okay, so this is my final presentation. I made a little collage featuring three of my organizing mentors at the top. The Frederick Douglass quote that Daniel shared with us on the first day of class. Three of my favorite organizers, abolitionist organizers to study and hopefully someday emulate, and a constellation based on this quote from Mariam Kaba's new book, We Do This Till We Free Us. It's a collection of essays about transformative justice and abolitionist organizing. And Mariam's just incredible. She is an abolitionist organizer, educator, and curator who's very involved in movements for racial, gender, and transformative justice. She founded and directs Project NIA, which is a grassroots org with a vision to end youth incarceration. So anyways, I'll start with explaining the choice of using a constellation as a background. So for one thing, the other day I was power mapping with Ellie, one of my organizing mentors, who's actually pictured at the top in the middle. And she said something about how we can all touch different constellations of people, which is fundamental for organizing and building power, not focusing on single people, but on groups of people. After all, I'm going to pull out an Angela Davis quote since I featured her. It is in collectivities that we find reservoirs of hope and optimism. That's from Freedom is a Constant Struggle, which I'm about halfway through and am loving it. Anyways, the other day I cracked open my new copy of We Do This Till We Free Us, and the foreword had this really lovely passage about collectivity that I'm going to share. It said, Kaba's abolitionist vision burns so bright precisely because she refuses to be the single star dazzling alone. Why be a star when you can make a constellation? And that's what we see in this book. The brilliance that shines from Kaba, an entire constellation of co-organizers, co-founders, and co-conspirators, together in an abolitionist practice of refusal, care, and collectivity. Refusal because we cannot collaborate with the prison industrial complex, as only evil will collaborate with evil. Care because care is the antidote to violence. Collectivity because everything worthwhile is done with others. This class, concurrent with my experiences doing organizing with Democratic Socialists of America and JESPA, has really taught me that organizing is both a science and an art. It's thinking through a vision, a strategy, and then figuring out who your targets are, always being concerned about power, always being concerned about how you're going to actually build power in order to be able to push your issues, in order to be able to get the target to actually move in the way you want. So this class kind of had me vacillate between feeling energized and inspired to hopeless and drained. Energized and inspired from reading the stories of extraordinary organizers from DARE and AFL-CIO, just to name a couple. And then hopeless and drained from just learning about the intricacies and complexities of organizing, how time consuming and how crucial strategy is to everything. I'm a very detail oriented person who tends to overthink everything. So I worry a little bit about my tendency to let perfect be the enemy of good. And sometimes the readings just stress me out thinking about how important it is to do things the right way. But I guess you learn by making mistakes. Feeling hopeless and drained was kind of compounded by weekly experiences doing one-on-ones at my internship. Definitely out here in the wood chipping process, doing the slow kindling of building a fire, so to speak, with doing these one-on-ones part-time. It's like pretty frustrating only doing them 1 day a week, honestly, feeling like I'm very out of the loop and feeling not equipped to empower workers who have, a lot of them have pretty brutal stories about their working conditions and their quality of life. And it can feel like some days inspiring and agitating to figure out strategies for building their power, like petitions or phone zaps or, organizing strategies like that. But other days it can just feel really defeating when they come to me talking about their wage not being enough. And I know, like, I just feel hopeless. The fight for 15 has been going on for years and still sounds very off in the distance. It's bullshit that federal minimum wage is $7.25 and our workers are not making enough money for all that they do. Anyways, ultimately, I leave this class with a sense of hope. And I think that a good way to renew that hope is by studying the greats like Mary Ann, Frederick Douglass, and Angela Davis. On the first day of class, Daniel told us many consider Saul Alinsky to be the godfather of organizing, and it stuck with me when they told us to instead look to women and people of color who have been struggling and working to build power for centuries. A couple of weeks later, at my internship, I was assigned a reading by Saul Alinsky, and sure enough, I found the readings from these three abolitionists and Rinku Sen to be much more moving and insightful. Well, I've only heard speeches of Frederick Douglass, but you know what I mean. The words that I've heard or read from these people. So that's why I chose to put those three at the bottom, and the quote about power conceding nothing, because obviously making demands is a prerequisite to building power and challenging oppression and injustices. So after we've done recruitment and outreach to build a group, the organizing loop we learned about starts with that issue identification and demand development. And I've been really struggling with developing demands based on issues, finding like widely, deeply felt issues that have small, concrete, winnable actions we can take. So it's something I'd like to focus on growing in my organizing trajectory. And then there's another Angela Davis quote I kind of wanted to end with that gave me the idea to put Luke, Ellie, and Alize up here. And the quote is also from Freedom is a Constant Struggle. It is essential to resist the depiction of history as the work of heroic individuals in order for people today to recognize their potential agency as a part of an ever-expanding community of struggle. So all three of these people have done a really good job of inspiring me and activating me to recognize my agency, even though I know I will never, I said earlier, I wanted to emulate the work of these incredible abolitionist organizers. I didn't mean that I need to be an heroic individual by any means, just their persistence and their values and the way they approach organizing. But yeah, I feel pretty confident in my ability to do recruitment and outreach thanks to Alize, who's pictured in the upper right corner. She's helped me do one-on-ones a lot and grow in that sense. Ellie, pictured in the middle, canvassing for Bernie Sanders, taught me a lot about analyzing power and strategizing through power mapping, as well as leadership development. She's the chair of the membership committee, which I'm a part of, and she really developed me into somewhat of a leader for our DSA chapter. And since meeting her 11 months ago, I've had the blessing of witnessing her develop like several leaders, and it's pretty cool to watch. And then Luke in the upper left corner is the reason I joined DSA. He's the development chair and very skilled at developing actions into campaigns. I just want to close with a quote from Daniel about, I think it was, we lose often, and when we win, it's small victories. And I messed it up. But anyways, it's been an amazing class. I've learned a lot. I'm inspired to continue learning to organize and keep doing the work. Stop recording.